Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Tommo, and welcome to my 2024 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix post-race Chinwag. Roll intro. How are we doing? Camille, Liam, Dimmy, Sonny, Patrick, Alex, LKWD, Adams, Froggy, Marta, William, Dan, Tom, Jozo. It's me, TG, Minton is here again. That's two in a row where we're starting off. We're kicking off with Minton wincing a bit, probably because of the key light in his eyes. But it's fine. You can just keep your eyes closed, mate. Audio only listeners, you're not seeing Minton, okay, but you can listen to this after the fact on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, okay. I do upload this after we are done. Everyone here live on YouTube, everyone here after the fact on YouTube, make sure you give the stream a little like, and then let me know how fraudulent my takes are in the comments below. I try to make more of an effort to reply to your comments on these live streams, these post live streams once they're not live anymore. Anyway, how are we all doing? Imola, Emilia, Romagna, a track with much history. Of course, a big deal this weekend, 30 years on from the tragic loss of Ayrton Senna and Roland Ratzenberger. Some really nice tributes this weekend. You had you had Sebastian Vettel in Ayrton Senna's old McLaren. Was it the 93? Was it the 93 McLaren? I think it was the last McLaren because obviously he was at Williams in 94, but I think it was the 93 McLaren, wasn't it? Driving around Imola. Great vibes, great. The sound, the meaning. It was a very emotional weekend. You saw Seb's dad Norbert in tears. I think by all accounts, what I read, he was a big Senna fan, and yeah, that must have been quite a thing for him. But good seeing Seb back around as well. Forget Seb's still. He's not even that. He's like what 3-4 years younger than Lewis. Do I think he'll come back? No, I don't think Seb will be back in an F1 car anytime soon. And the old race suit as well. Balaclavas. Nice tributes knocking about this weekend for both Ayrton and Roland. But yeah, Imola Grand Prix back in the region for the first time since 2022, obviously, because of the floods last year. And race rating, people. Can we get some numbers in the live chat so that I can put a little poll together, please? Because it's one of them, obviously, non-sprint weekend. Qualifying was very tight. It was very interesting qualifying session. We will delve into that a little bit. And then obviously it was a race, not of many overtakes, especially at the front, but obviously a crescendo at the end, 0.7 of a second between Max Verstappen in P1, Lando Norris in P2. Right, let's get some numbers. The lowest one cool. So let's do a poll. So race rating, Minton, you're going to have to balance here, mate. My keyboard is working this time. Of 10, so I'm going to do a 3 or lower, a 4, 5, 6 or higher. So yeah, it's one of them. Not many overtakes, which it's Imola, and unless the weather conditions are a bit sketchy, like they were in 21, I'm really historically. Many of you watching will have known, whenever I speak about Imola, I'm not particularly positive about it. And I've talked about, I would, as a racing track, I would gladly lose Imola if it was for the sake of maybe a Sepang, a track that I really want to see back and I think would bring great overtaking. Imola, it feels more like a Monaco now, almost in a lot of ways. It's obviously got the gravel, so you are really punished. Not in the same way that you are in Monaco, but you're really punished for making mistakes. And I think qualifying was great. And in the race, it's just like, you've only got that one overtaking opportunity realistically. Obviously, we did see what Sargent got mugged by Hulkenberg, didn't he? He got overtaken twice. There were a couple of isolated moves. Not at turn 1, but realistically, that is the only overtaking opportunity. So, even the F2 races, I'd say boring. I mean, the sprint race was good. Colapinto did a last lap overtake on, who was it on? Can't remember. Either way, what are you saying? What are you saying in the Ooh, we got a 3 or lower, 16%. We've got a 34%, give it a 4. 31% give it a 5. And 18% give it a 6 or higher. So you're probably averaging at about a 5. There's a lot of 4s, but there's quite a lot of 6s as well. Maybe just below a 5 you're averaging out at. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it was Aaron. Yeah, I've taken Aaron for the last. That was exciting. That was exciting. And bloody Ollie, what you playing at? Wally Bearman, am I right? You know I love you, Ollie, but the stall, man, the stall from the lead of the F2 feature race. What a stinker. No, so my rating, maybe I've been a bit generous here. Sometimes I'm generous, sometimes I'm not, you know. And again, I'm always on audio-only platforms. I gave it a 6. I think without those last 10 laps, it's a 3. But it was the way Lando was drawing Max in at the end. Oof. It was exciting. At the end, granted. The end of the race saved it. Look, 18% of you agree. But there's no collective either. Most of you are 4 or 5. The end of the race saved it. I mean, you got a gap of 0.7 of a second at the end. Come on, that's something, especially for the win as well. But yeah, I'm giving it a 6. Do I think actually? There's another poll though. Let's do this poll now. Okay, so we disagree on that, which is fine. If there was one more lap, would Lando have won the race? Simple yes or no question. Live chat. If there was one more lap, do you think Lando would have won the race? He was catching at a rate of knots, then obviously gets into Max's dirty air, and that gap kind of levels off somewhat at about 1.5 seconds. And Lando talking post-race, he was kind of like, you know, once he got into that dirty air, he needed to then kind of adjust and learn how to then drive, you know, slightly differently, because you can't drive the same. Obviously, the tyres are getting hotter, you got the dirty air. And once he did, he then started to get closer to that 1 second, and you know he did have DRS on as they crossed the finish line, as in he was within a second at the last detection zone on the last lap, not the penultimate lap. And yeah, if there was one more lap, would Lando have won? 27% of you think yes, 73% say no. I don't think he would have won. I think he would have given Max something to think about into turn 1 for sure, where Max would have had to compromise his line. But ultimately, Max would have defended. Lando, I don't think, would have been alongside enough to get a move done. And as long as Max could defend T1, he'd be fine to the end. So even with an extra lap, I don't think Lando would have actually won. There wasn't enough of a pace delta. Because you need, especially around a track like Imola, it's not good enough just being a half a second quicker a lap. You need to be your pace needs to be more like a second quicker to actually get a move done into turn 1. Because obviously so much of it is just getting that momentum out of Ravazza. Is it Ravazza? The final corner, the final 2 corners? Is that knowledge from me? I'm so bad with corner names, honestly. Terrible. But yeah, no, I agree. I don't think Lando would have actually got the move done. Yes, I got it right. Thank you. I don't think it would have actually got it done. But it was exciting nonetheless. And would have given us, when was the last time we had a on pace with no Max? You know, Max had damage in Miami, so there's always going to be some kind of caveat there. How much his pace was affected by that damage, we'll never know for sure. But it's it's close. It was close. If my mum had balls, that's so true, Mark, you know. If my mum had balls, she'd be my dad. Let's see if he would have got the move done reversal. You know what? And again, no one can prove you wrong. No one could prove you wrong. No one can prove you wrong. And Max won the race, and we all know what he did. We all know what this pose is. Up the iRacing. What can we say? Right. Race result for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Max Verstappen wins ahead of Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc P3 again. How many P3s has Charles got this year? Hang on. Sorry, right, can you just balance Minton, please? How many P3s has Charles got this year? I feel Lewis has got loads of P6s as well. Charles has got one. Okay, he's got 3 P3s, 3 P4s, and P2. Very consistent, Charles. Never lower than 4th. Fair play to him. And Lewis has got. Oh no, Lewis has got 3 P9s, 2 P6s. And I feel like Hulkenberg's got 3 P11s now. Hulkenberg is the new Yuki Tsunoda. Just constantly getting P11s. That's his 3rd of the season for Nico. But yes, Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Perez, Stroll, Tsunoda is the top 10 finishing order. Perez only was able to recover to P8 from P11, where he started after getting knocked out in Q2. Not a good weekend for him. Stroll recovered well, P13 to P9. Yuki fell back, qualified well, but wasn't able to hold off Perez and Stroll. Quicker racing cars ultimately underneath them, but still did well to get a point in the end. Haas 11 and 12 on the cusp, but not quite. Oscar gets, how many P4s has Oscar got? Oscar's got 3 P4s. 3 P4s for Oscar. There you go. Daniel Ricciardo P13, Ocon 14, Joe 15, Gasly 16, Sargent 17, Bottas 18. Sauber put him on the longest second body stint of all time, and his tyres just fell off at the end. And Alonso pitted to try and steal fastest lap off of George Russell or away from. He wouldn't have got fastest lap, obviously, Alonso, because he was right at the back, but he could have stopped Mercedes getting that extra point. He wasn't able to do that. So there you go. And then Albon. Oh, what a weekend. I mean, look, qualifying is all right. Got to Q2. And then just didn't put the wheel on properly. And then got a 10-second penalty because Williams messed up. And then something else happened, didn't it? And they put I don't know, but they retired him anyway. So it was just a testing session. Yeah, not good. Stinker from Williams once again. But yeah, Russell, Hamilton switching places. And we'll talk about that. Driver standings are as follows. Max Verstappen, 161 points. Charles Leclerc, 113, ahead of Sergio Perez. Jumps him by now 6 points ahead of Checo. Norris only 6 behind Perez as well. So that's getting awfully tight there. Sainz, 93. Then a big jump down to Piastri, 53. Oscar, man, he could just do with a bit of luck, man. Obviously, his penalty in qualifying was fair. It's one of them that the team really need to be communicating better. There's responsibility on both sides. Are you all right, mate? Sorry, this dog. Look at him. He's in high downforce mode. Why are you in high downforce? Why are you trying to push yourself into the ground? Right. You want to go into your bed? Right. Say bye to everyone. Bye. There we go. Good boy. Right. You sit in your bed. Also, my legs ache so much. I literally did intense physical exercise for the first time this weekend in far too long, and the DOMs are insane. Anyway, moving on. Driver standings, yes. Hamilton's gone ahead of Alonso in terms of changes of position. Leclerc's jumped Perez. Hinton, can you stop? It's got this toy. This toy makes a racket. Listen to it. Racket. Right. But it was on his bed, so he was trying to dig it out of the way. So it's only Leclerc jumping Perez and Hamilton jumping Alonso. They are the only two. Yeah, high rake Minton. They are the only 2 changes in position there. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult season, I think, for the rest of Checo's season this year. We said it in the pre-race, right? As McLaren and Ferrari catch up, Checo can't afford to be as behind as Max as he is, and we saw it all this weekend, right? Team standings, Bosch. No changes in position here, but of course McLaren, good points for them, closed the gap to Ferrari ever so slightly. Max obviously still doing his thing from a constructor's point of view, so 56 points, Red Bull to Ferrari. Lovely jubbly. Otherwise, Yuki got a point, Aston got a few points there. Not much to talk about there. Predictions. Now look, mine, Max win, banger drive Oscar. He didn't get banger drive. He was a good drive though. It was a very good drive, but it's not banger. Clanger Sergio, I think that's pretty spot on. Banger McLaren, pretty spot on. Clanger Aston, they've had worse weekends. Sorry, other team I think maybe had worse weekend, but not great either. Obviously Alonso was no. Stroll actually 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, Stroll has seemingly outperformed Fernando Alonso. It was a bit interesting. Yeah, he wasn't banger though. Oscar was good. He's very good, but he wasn't banger. He wasn't the bangingest of them all. So my prediction is pretty good. I think that's at least a 3 out of 5. All right. Yours stunk. So you got Max race win. Well done. Pat yourself on the back there. Banger drive Charles. Not a bad drive by any stretch, but the bangingest drive? No. Clanger drive Stroll. Sorry, did I say banger drive Stroll? I said banger drive Leclerc. Sorry. Let me start again. Banger drive Charles. Good drive, but not banger. Clanger drive Stroll. No, absolutely. He definitely not. He actually had quite a good race. Pretty good race. Banger team Ferrari. Good, but not the best. Clanger team Alpine. Not great, but not the clangingest, you know? Not the clangingest. So I win this weekend. I'm the winner. Okay. Bangs and clangs though. Who are my actual ones? What are my picks? Well, banger drive. Any thoughts in the live chat? Any names you want to chuck out at me for banger drive of the weekend? Obviously, Max Verstappen wins the race. Pole position as well. What more could he have done? In a car that you got to think that setup-wise, they weren't quite able to get it where it needed to be. I feel like Max made the difference this weekend. Lando Norris obviously closing that gap very tight at the front. Yuki Tsunoda, another great qualifying session, held on for a point in the end. Stroll recovered well, P13 to P9. No, I'm going for a name that I don't think any of you have mentioned. I'm going for Kevin Magnussen. You want to know why? Got blocked in qualifying, so started P18, recovered to P12, finished just 1.2 seconds behind Nico Hülkenberg. Nico's strategy was sus, granted. Long stint, just like Bottas. But Kevin Magnussen had a banger little race. 6 positions gained. And the only retirement was Albon, who did start ahead of him, granted. 18 to 12, 1.2 seconds behind Nico Hülkenberg. Making moves. No, I was about to say a different word then, I can't really say that. No messy shenanigans from Kevin Magnussen this weekend, for once, and I'm going to give him credit for it. So you know what, K-Mag, banger drive. Well done. Have some of that. Didn't even get a penalty. Yeah, all of that, knowing that if he slipped up once, he's getting a race ban. We take it. We take those, Kevin Magnussen fans. Clanger drive, on the other hand, well, there's 2 names. They're not, chat. Are there not 2 names for Clanger? I feel like there's 2 names for Clanger. I mean, there's... Okay, I think an outside name for Clanger is maybe Gasly. Out-qualified by Esteban again, and just in the race, just was nowhere. Also blew up on the radio in FP3, which wasn't the most professional look, let's say. Being like, oh, you're prioritising Esteban. All that, right? Not the best. But it's Checo or Fernando, isn't it? Both of them crashed in practice. Alonso first, then Perez. Alonso's was worse damage. They only just got the car out in time. But then I feel like... I know Fernando said they had some kind of issue at the end of qualifying, which meant he couldn't set his final lap. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But also, like, if it is, that is probably a problem that was brought on by him crashing anyway. So, was it fuel? Oh, fair enough. And then, obviously, in the race, Fernando was kind of nowhere. Obviously, pitted at the end to try to go for fastest lap and didn't work out. He ran out of fuel. Damn, that's actually crazy. I didn't know that. It's the word. For me, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It's what's happened here? I went to click the next thing, and there we go. It's Checo. I've given it Checo. His teammate wins the race. Checo crashes in FP3, goes out in Q2 in a Red Bull, recovers to P8, goes off track in the gravel. Like, I know Red Bull put him on they put him on the hard to start, and that didn't seem to be the best strategy. But even when he put the mediums on at the end, he couldn't even reel in Lewis at any rate of knots, like, at all. Bad weekend for Sergio Perez. Thing is, up until this point, what he's got: second, fifth, second, third sprint, fourth, third sprint. Up until this point, it's been like, okay, this is acceptable. Like, close enough. Not as close as, you're not going to give Max anything to worry about, right? But, and it's like, now that Ferrari and McLaren have stepped up, this is going to be a much more challenging season for Checo. Gone are the races now that he can finish 20 seconds behind Max and still be second or still be on the podium, I just don't think that's now going to happen for the rest of this year. So yeah, clanger drive, but obviously Fernando Alonso, honourable, maybe not so honourable mention, which is kind of funny actually, maybe. So I was at Aston Martin on Sunday and I watched the race from the factory, which was really cool. And I got to see their mission control, which was interesting. Like, before the race, and everyone kind of lined up. They had about 25 or so people in there, and obviously their race turned into a bit of a test session for Fernando. But Lance recovered well anyway, and I got to ask a question to Ben. I think it's Ben Michel. He's Lance's old race engineer. He was race engineering Lance earlier this year, but now Lance has got a new race engineer. And I asked him, what is Lance Stroll's biggest strength? Being his race engineer and knowing everything more than anyone about Lance's style of driving and knowing his data. What do you reckon? What do you reckon he said? Well, I thought it was Ben Mitchell, but the fella who introduced him pronounced it as Ben Michel. So I'm like, do you really think, FH4, that Ben would say Lance's best skill is crashing? His titanium wrist, nothing. Feedback, rain. Yeah, LinkedIn says, yeah, there's no T in it. It is Ben Michel. Ben Michel. His dad. Oh, you lot. This is why you lot can't, this is why you lot don't get invited to these events. Because you would ask questions like that and you'd get kicked out. No, so he said, which I thought actually was a good point. Lap ones, typically, Lance will gain positions. He's pretty good on a lap one at staying out of trouble. Okay, ignore Hungary 2011. There are obviously examples to the contrary, but typically he will gain positions on first lap. And he also said he said his base car control is exceptional. That's what Ben said. So he said first laps. Didn't mention him in the wet, actually, which I thought he might have done, because Lance has been very good in the wet. Did I say 2011? What is wrong with it? I did mean 2021, yes. Hungary 2021, 2011. Yeah, when he was in karts in 2011, for crying out loud. Anyway, I think my mouse has run out of battery. That's great, excellent. How is it run? There's no way this has run out of battery. Anyone else use MX Master Frame? Logitech? Great mouse. Anyway, right. Anyway, moving on to Banger Team. McLaren. Shock. I mean, 2-3 on the grids. A car that I think without Max's Max factor, his extra, just, I think, full ability, it took all of Max's ability to win that race. And I was considering putting Max as banger drive for that reason, because there was clearly struggling with the car and he still managed to convert it up. I don't think there is a single other driver in F1 who would have won that race in that Red Bull outside of Max. I mean, that's... Okay, so obviously Max understands that car at the back of his hand. So, of course, anyone else just jumping into it randomly. But I think it's his ability that any other driver in that situation, including if Lando was in that situation and was being chased by Lando, you know, clones. Sure, Zach Brown. Nah, they got Oscar's great, so maybe he doesn't want a clone. Because the clone would go to Red Bull and then it'd be Lando versus Lando. Anyway, I digress. I think that Max made the difference, you know. And why did I vote Perez Clanger? Well, he went out in Q2, went off the track in FP3 and in the race, and couldn't catch up to Lewis. It's a bit different. Like, holding off a fast charging Lando Norris versus not being able to catch. Come on. But yeah, that was great weekend from McLaren. And again, the penalty, that is the blot on the report card. If Oscar doesn't get that penalty, it's probably a 2-3 on the podium. And then in that situation as well, you got to say, right, if they have Lando and Oscar in P2 and P3, maybe that gives them, all right, let's use one driver. Let's undercut Max with one driver, overcut Max with the other, and try and use them two to manufacture some kind of win. I mean, it came to 0.7 of a second. I think if they come out of turn one and it's Max ahead of the two McLarens, McLaren can play there. They can do, and this is where, again, having a teammate that's too far off, once a championship gets tight, is a problem. But yeah. Finally, clanger team. I've gone Williams, and I've left the Sauber logo in. Classic Lomo moment. And moving on to yours. if, but. We all speculate, Charmander. That's the name of the game, all right? That's the name of the game. Right, your banger drive this weekend, 1,571 of you voted. Make sure you are subscribed to the Tommo YouTube channel if you are here on YouTube. If you're watching this live stream or after the fact, now's the time to go double check you're subscribed. Just to make sure. And notification, you can do that as well. Subscriptions don't really... No one watches videos from their subscription feed. But it's the notification bell. Just give that a ding ding. A ring ding ding. Crazy Frog style, do it. That's such a terrible reference, isn't it? That really shows my age. And yeah, give that a little ring a ding ding. And yeah, if you're listening audio only, then you can't do that. But maybe give it a rating. How much I waffle. Tell me about how much I waffle and how much I don't get. I'm not succinct. I feel like I can be, but I just don't want to be when I'm doing these streams because it's more fun to just chat, you know. And here we go. Bass came from the feed. Good for you, Bass, using your subscription feed. Well done, you. I think you're a dying breed. Okay, banger drive this weekend. You lot have gone Lando Norris. 46% of the vote for Lando. 1 wins. Lando 1 wins. 46%. Max Verstappen, 28% of the vote. When Max wins by 35 seconds, he's nowhere on banger drive. When it's like he almost lost, 28% of you are like, I'm awake to Max. I love it. Yuki Tsunoda, 10% of the vote. Lance Stroll, 6% of the vote. I rate that, you know. I rate that. Fair play. Leclerc had a good race. Yep. Didn't make the top 4 though. Didn't make the top 4. But no, he did have a good race, Charles Leclerc, as did Piastri. But obviously the end result, stuck behind Carlos Sainz, a track like Imola, man. It's historic. I get it, but can't overtake. It's frustrating. And clanger drive. Fernando Alonso, 53% of the vote, 33% to Checo. So those two accounted for 86% of the vote. I feel like I'm going to burp or hiccup and I'm going to do neither. 4% Lewis Hamilton, 3% Alex Albon. Yeah, I mean, wasn't his fault, but yeah, I mean, fair. fair dues. Yeah, I don't know. Hamilton 4%. Obviously, Lewis had his off, didn't he? He got out-qualified by George. He had his off. But his race pace at the end was very good, was Lewis's. But, quali kind of put him out of sorts. He did have that off through aqua mineral water. Aqua minerale. But yeah, I think quali's holding Lewis back for sure at the minute. I am a bit worried. I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit worried for him. I feel like up against Charles Leclerc, in Charles Leclerc's Ferrari, I'm concerned for Lewis. I am concerned, especially over a lap. Race pace, not so concerned. Over a lap, I am quite concerned. Isn't aqua minerale water just mineral water? Yes. I mean, aqua minerale translates to mineral water. So. But it sounds so much better, doesn't it? Always going through mineral water chicane. Like, no, I'm just going to... It's got no vibes, is it? Come on. So, clanger drive, Fernando. Banger drive, Lando. Banger team. McLaren, 90% of you. 90%. That's pretty unheard of. To get into the 90s on these polls. There's always a few of you. Like, I'm going to spam vote for, Stroll, even though he's crashed. Or I'm going to spam vote for Magnussen, even though he's been taking everyone out left, right and centre. But not this weekend. So well done, everyone. 90%. Thork, take that back. Yuki overrated as usual. How dare you? 3% Racing Bulls. 3% Ferrari. 2% Haas. Haas. 11 and 12. Again, if the top 12 get points, which maybe they will change the point scoring system to be top 12, then double points Haas. Right. This is the thing. Surely, right, if the top 12 got points and both Haas were in the points, which they would have been, 11 and 12, I reckon more than 2% of the people go for banger team Haas. It does affect how we perceive these things. It really does. And then finally, clanger team, 58% goes to Williams. No surprise there. Logan was not comfortable in the car, didn't seem happy in the car kind of all weekend. Obviously went out in Q1 as well. Alex did get to Q2, but then they put the wheel on wrong, which ended his race. Not that I think Alex would have got anywhere near the points, to be honest. I don't think Williams are, as I said, like they're more consistent now. Their baseline is better, but they don't have the peaks like they did last year, and the peaks is what gets you up the constructors' order when only the top 10 get points. They don't have them peaks anymore, But yeah, another frustrating weekend for Logan Sargent. Again, look, I think I said it in my video. I feel like Logan's had 29 races now, I think, because obviously he didn't have the race where Alex took his chassis in Australia. I think that's enough to I think Logan's had enough of a chance, and it's so frustrating because he's clearly got pace, underlying pace. But if you can never deliver that pace in those moments where it matters, which qualifying matters so much now, especially around a track like Imola, track like Monaco next weekend, I don't see Logan, getting out of Q1, and I probably don't see Alex getting out of Q1 either, to be honest. I don't think that track seems to play to their strengths, but the underlying pace is, if you look, and again, if you look into the numbers, the underlying race pace relative to Alex has been there many a time. But qualifying pace, no. Especially when it matters, no. Race pace when it matters, no. Too many mistakes, etc., etc. 58% went for Williams, 26% Aston Martin, 6% Sauber, 3% Mercedes. Yeah, a lot of disappointment. Even, being at Aston, I felt like there's just this underlying sense of disappointment. Obviously, these upgrades, Fernando had I think he had 8 upgrades on his car. I'm assuming, I feel like Lance had the same. I feel like he had the same. You look at McLaren bringing upgrades and Ferrari bringing upgrades, and, seeing even Alpine, they're not the worst car by any stretch now. just having immediate upticks in performance, and Aston need to finish that wind tunnel. They need to stop using Mercedes, because Mercedes wind tunnel clearly ain't doing it either. But yeah, Sauber remaining most invisible as per. Small shout for Clanger would be science. He was slow all weekend. Yeah, he did struggle this weekend, Carlos, actually, wasn't he? He wasn't. This was one of those weekends where Charles was quite clearly, markedly quicker. Like, quite clearly quicker. It doesn't happen all the time, but he does have these weekends where Charles just firmly outclasses him. And this was one of those weekends. Like, Charles was quickest in FP1, quickest in FP2. Science was just struggling all weekend. Yeah. Still got P5, but well, at least him and Oscar kept it clean this time. Cool. Actually, also, before we move on to team by team, I did want to show a little graphic courtesy of Formula Data Analysis on Twitter, which is a good little visualization of how the race pace changed over the course of the race. Obviously, audio-only listeners, I do apologise. I'll try and talk over this as much as I can. But obviously, there's a baseline 0, which is obviously Max Verstappen, the baseline. And you can see how over the course of the race, he opened that gap up to Lando Norris in that first stint. And then kind of after the pits, the gap was gradually eking even a bit more open. But actually, you look at Charles in his Ferrari. After the pit stops, he's closed into Max ever so slightly, not by much, but on the hard tyres. And again, first stint they were all on mediums, second stint they're all on. Again, every driver I'm talking about here when I say all. And you can see how Charles was gradually closing in, not just to Lando, but also to Max. But obviously he was too far behind to be an actual threat to Max. But then you just see there's a point where I think once, Lando passes some traffic and starts to, he's kind of nursing his tyres in this phase, which is that's the thing, that is impossible for us to see in real time when drivers are pushing 100% or when they're nursing their tyres. The teams don't know. Only the driver and the race engineer to an extent, but only the driver really knows how much they're pushing and how much they're leaving, in the tank. And then you see the uptick in Norris's pace towards the end. He's catching Max hand over fist. And Leclerc's pace kind of levels out. Leclerc's got a pretty straight line there, hasn't he? In that on that final hard stint. And Piastri and Norris's pace at that final kind of third of the race, Lando is way quicker. Like, Piastri wasn't able to find the same performance that Lando was. Lando had to mess around with a few dials, I think he was saying post-race, and seemed to unlock this performance in the tyre. Take it to the end. But yeah, no, it's look at that stint. I was saying about Lewis. Look at that stint Lewis had from lap 36 to about 55. It dropped a bit at the end, but in that stint, his pace is about the same as Leclerc's, pretty much the same as Max's as well. In those moments, but then you look at the first stint, and Max is quicker than everyone. Everyone's on a downward trajectory. But look, this is the thing, right? I think where the sport is so close, fundamentally, like in terms of car performance, it's the reliability of both Max's RB20 and Max Verstappen himself that is making him win. He's in this moment, that is what is the defining differential, even in a race like this where it's 0.7 of a second between the first two. Obviously George had pace at the end because he had fresh rubber, closed that gap to Lewis. But yeah, I think Max is now the defining factor. But also I think Monaco Saturday I'm buzzing for, because I feel like we're now in a position where it's the drivers that are actually making the difference now. I think Max is better than Norris, and I think Max is better than Leclerc. He's a more complete driver. But they're so good, and they're so close to him. And it's like Max, he's only human. He's going to make mistakes at some points. And I think now, Norris and Leclerc in particular, are in a position where they can capitalise. They can 100% capitalise on Max's misfortune if and when it comes. But you can also rely on Max to not mess up. and unreal pit stops as well. No one went under 2 seconds this weekend, but Red Bull still had the fastest pit stop of the weekend. It was like a 2.0 something, I believe. But yeah, thank you, Formula Data Analysis, for what you do on Twitter. Go and follow Formula Data Analysis on Twitter and Instagram. Really helpful visualization of how this race plays. Because I think that is the one thing missing most from the broadcasts, is really like being able to visually communicate. And it's difficult because look, even with this post race, this is, I think, the best way of communicating it. And it's just loads of lines. Like, how do you communicate this in a live race? It's very hard to. I think the best you can do is give the commentary team all of this stuff, and then, let them run with it. Let them try and communicate that themselves. But yeah, mate, I'm buzzing for Monaco qualifying more than usual. Oh, also, actually, before we move on, quick shout out Harry Benjamin, good friend of mine, Harry, and he did a great job. He did a great job. I was very proud of him this weekend. He's took over the reins at Sky. If you're watching in the UK or you watch the Sky feed, and usually you hear Crofty. Crofty sat out this weekend. Harry took over. I thought he did a really good job, especially for his first time as well. I mean, I know he was nervous. Of course he's nervous. Obviously, he's going to be nervous. He's done it before. He's been doing 5 live comms for years and that. But I thought he did a really good job. It's a nice, he had his own little, what was it? Eyes to the lights and foot to the floor. I like that. It was good. Crofty's got his lights out and away we go. That's great. But I thought it was good. I thought it was a nice difference. He's got a different approach to Crofty, but also, look, I think I like Crofty. I think Crofty's really good, but it would be nice to see, maybe an alternation between the two. I think he did a good job. And obviously Alex Jakes. I love Alex Jakes as well. Alex Jakes is Crofty, Benjamin. I think they're good hands. Good hands. The old comms department. Right, let's go team by team. Alpine. Not bad. Not good. It's just okay. Like, I don't know. I don't get this. Like, why is Gasly struggling so much? Genuinely. Because he wasn't... Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't speak in absolutes about safety cars, Harry. You can't do that. He'll learn that. He's learned that lesson, I think, already. Why is... I don't get it. Does anyone ever need, like... I don't understand. Because last season, it would be different if this was Gasly's first season at Alpine in a ground effect car. But it's not. And he was matching, if not slightly better than Ocon last year. But this year, he's just... The gap's not massive in qualifying. It's not. But Ocon is consistently that little bit quicker. And in the race, it's just... I don't know how much of it is bad luck on Pierre's front, or he just doesn't seem to be as quick as... I mean, look, hang on. Let me get up... I'm sorry, I'm just going to... Oh, I know what's happened. Okay, so, sorry. You might want to skip this forward if you're watching after the back for like 2 minutes, right? I've got this really weird thing that happens on my laptop where the Bluetooth disconnects. So right now, my keyboard on my laptop isn't working. Also, this isn't working. I've just noticed, and that's why this isn't working. This is why my mouse isn't working. The Bluetooth completely switches off. And like when I go to like the bottom corner, I'm on Windows. Don't laugh at me. It's much more cost effective for what I do. And like there's just no, it's like Bluetooth doesn't exist. It's a Lenovo. But it just randomly happens. And I have to like switch off my whole system because the keyboard's disconnected. Maybe, actually, if you're watching this post on YouTube, if you can maybe drop a comment if you've got any thoughts. Yeah. So now I'm literally, the only thing that works on this entire system now is the stream is working and it's my trackpad. But neither of my keyboards work now, so I can't type anything. But fortunately, I don't need to for now. Anyway, right, yeah. So Alpine, are they moving in the right direction? It's just such a frustrating team. Like if you're Ocon and Gasly, like it feels like from everything we've been hearing, Ocon is trying to look for an opportunity elsewhere. Like it's a manufacturer, so you think from 26, but they've been a manufacturer for so long, yet they've never fulfilled that potential. Because potential is a dangerous word. Would I be looking at Williams a bit more excitedly if I was Esteban Ocon than Alpine? Probably. And I think Gasly fits with the Alpine brand better. He's a more marketable driver, and he's a great driver. I don't know why he's struggling at the minute. He is. I don't know why. But he's not, like, Gasly's great. He's a great driver. He's just having a difficult time of it at the minute. So we'll see. Time will tell. Right, Aston Martin. Just disappointed lack of an immediate uptick in performance with these upgrades, considering how big the upgrade package is. We've seen how immediate that can be, and you've got to question. Your Aston Martin don't have their own wind tunnel yet. You've got to question. To be fair, I'm not sure where they are with simulator. I'm not sure if they have their own one or they use a different one. But you have to look at these other teams again, particularly McLaren. McLaren have really shown what can be done in terms of, like, obviously Red Bull have been setting the standard, but McLaren have shown how you can take, a car that was rubbish and quickly turn it around with upgrades that correlate incredibly well, clearly, with the sim, and with your wind tunnel and what the theoretical stuff actually converts. And it's like Mercedes and Aston Martin both seem to be struggling with this, even though they're all running in the same engine. Actually, that's something I learned yesterday when I was at Aston. So they were saying that obviously Mercedes, when they build their engines, they obviously have their team, they have Williams, they have Aston, they have McLaren, and say that they do them in batches of 8. So they'll produce Mercedes HPP produce 8 engines. And also there's someone who's dedicated, who is employed by Mercedes, HPP, high performance powertrains, but works for, like, wears the Aston gear, is in amongst the team at Aston Martin, but is actually paid by Mercedes. It's quite interesting. But when they make that batch of 8 engines, apparently, to make sure there's no, like, Mercedes giving everyone slightly worse engines, they are, like, they're basically, like, drawn out of a hat, like which 2 engines go to Aston, which 2 engines go to Mercedes, which 2 go to Williams and McLaren. It was quite interesting. That's how they kind of try and negate any bias accusations, because obviously they supply a lot of teams, including themselves, to Mercedes. And different fuel supplier as well, Charmander. That's a good shout, actually, because obviously Aston have Aramco, Mercedes have Petronas, Williams, I guess, use Gulf because they sponsored and they're an oil company, and then McLaren use, I don't know, someone. Who knows? Not me. Not great from Aston. Fernando, 2 bad weekends in a row. It's not something that happens very often, but Monaco, remember his qualifying lap last year around Monaco. Was it last year? Or was it the year before that, 22, when he almost put it on pole? And obviously, Monaco is a driver's circuit. You're going to punish those who aren't confident in their package, which, I mean, I can't imagine Fernando is particularly confident in his package. It was 23, right? Yeah, it was last year. So look, we'll see. We will see with Aston, but it's not been great. Hopefully they learnt some stuff from this weekend being a bit of a write-off. Right? Okay, Ferrari. Yeah, I mean, obviously FP1, FP2 set standards very high with Charles. Wasn't quite able to make the difference in qualifying, though, to get on that front row. In the race, it's, he's finished, 7 seconds off the lead, which is a fair gap. They're close. Like, McLaren with Norris seems slightly closer, both in Miami and Imola, that are quite different tracks, but I mean, they're getting there. They are getting there for sure. And again, a difficult weekend for Sainz. If he was firing on all cylinders, it could have well been a. Could have been. I mean, I think Lando's safe on the podium P2, but I think maybe could have finished ahead of Piastri if Sainz was pushing a bit more. But yeah, look, it's good momentum for Ferrari. By the time we get to Monza, how far away is Monza? How long we got to Monza? Just realised my mouse doesn't work, so I have to do trackpads. So, oh yeah, Monza ain't for ages. So we've got Monaco, Canada, Spain, Austria, Britain, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands, Zandvoort, and then Italy, Monza. So yeah, so it's a while till Monza, so they've got time to optimise their high low downforce setup for their true home Grand Prix. I mean, if like Imola's more the Toro Rosso home Grand Prix, isn't it? And then Monza's more the Ferrari home Grand Prix, even though Tifosi left, right, and centre. Also, Lewis got quite a reception, didn't he? Which is cool. Cool to see. Am I going British Grand Prix? No plans to Charmander, but often if I'm gonna go, it'll probably be something that manifests quite near the time. So we'll see. But maybe. But yeah, all in all, good for Ferrari. Another very good race from Charles Leclerc. Like, not the best, but very good still. I think he did the maximum, really, that he could do this weekend. So shout out, Charles. Haas, damn. P11, P12. Again, great drive from Kevin Magnussen after being blocked in qualifying. And Hulkenberg, obviously, a difficult stint that Haas put him on. They tried it. Could Haas have, if they, because he got undercut by Yuki, so if Hulkenberg and Haas had done a longer first stint, could they have got a point? My man bullshit be my dad. Like, maybe it was close. Like, you can always rely on Hulk to deliver the optimum, but all in all, like, it's a strong weekend for Haas, really. Like truly speaking, considering where they are, it's good. Well done, Haas. No points, but good result all in all. McLaren, McLaren. And actually, you know what? I know I've got 2 videos I'm thinking of doing this week. As in like I want to get a video out tomorrow. Because there's 2 things I want to maybe talk. I want to talk about, and I feel like maybe I can save the second one. But I feel like Oscar Piastri deserves a video. I feel like he deserves a video. Red and white livery incoming. Oh, please, I beg. Might have to do a quick Photoshop, actually. Just take a Photoshop of the McLaren. Just switch it around. Make it look red and white. That'd be sick. Yeah, look, Oscar has found something. Which is great. But Lando is already there. He's clearly good enough to fight with Max. I think we're now seeing that. And it's close. But it's open wheel Formula 1 racing. Dirty air is a problem that will not be solved. DRS and active aero can maybe be somewhat of a solution, but we're not quite there yet. But yeah, look, Piastri is... His suffering, you say his suffering continues, yeah, but like the pace, the underlying pace and the 1 lap pace for sure is there. He just needs to take a few lessons from Lando's tyre preservation techniques right now in that McLaren. Because otherwise he is very good. Very good. Well done, McLaren. Well done, McLaren. Mercedes. Okay, let's talk a little bit about... well, again, Lewis had a bit of a messy race. Not great qualifying either, but obviously P6 in the end, which is... I don't think you could expect much more from Mercedes. That's where they are. That is where they are. George was... Look, I think George catches strays that he doesn't deserve many times. And I think, you're up against Lewis Hamilton, who's, one of the most popular drivers on the grid. A very loyal fan base, and when they lock horns, he's often the fall guy. Sometimes rightly so, sometimes not. But I do think George is like, I don't know why the team can't just be like, if I'm at Mercedes, right, And I'm like, right, you're 6 and 7, right? George is ahead of Lewis. Fernando is far enough behind. No, sorry, who is it? Who is it? No, it's Checo. Sorry, not Fernando. He's bloody right at the back. Checo, who right? They could pit George for fastest lap. He came out 1.5 seconds ahead of Checo. If they'd have pit Lewis for fastest lap, he would have came up behind Checo. And then, well, what are you doing? You're just giving away 2 points for the sake of maybe getting that back and getting an extra point. Whereas you can pit George, demote him, but keep him ahead of Perez by doing a half-decent pit stop, and then George gets fastest lap. It is a net 1 point gain for the team. And I don't know why, like, on the radio, they didn't just say to George, like, right, George, we're going to pit you for fastest lap. You've got a gap to Perez. You'll come out behind Lewis, but the team will gain an extra point. And we can't do that with Lewis because he's not far enough ahead of Checo. The team will gain an extra point, and this is a decision for the team, for the 800, 900 members of staff at Mercedes. This is not about you. This is about the team. And I feel like, I don't know, if they just worded it in that, like, matter of fact, because what does it matter if George finishes 6th or 7th? And he was moaning a bit on the radio. I was like, George, shut up, man. Just, like, in that position, it doesn't matter. Like, what matters is the team in that moment. I don't know why, I'm surprised. I don't know. I feel like George does feel like he needs to get one over on Lewis as often as possible. And I get that. I understand that. Because it's Lewis Hamilton and George Lewis, especially now, like, Lewis is, well, it's a different thing, isn't it? When Lewis wasn't leaving Mercedes, then obviously George wants to be, well, I want to be number one driver. Like, I've spent too long at Williams, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's like, now Lewis is leaving, he's like, well, I want to prove I'm the number one guy, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't know. I feel like that was just a bit of an unnecessary attitude, for want of a better term, from George. Because it's not about you, mate. It's about the team. Like, in Mercedes' position where they are now, it's not about you as an individual. It's about the team. Only when you start to get to the front can you really justify it being about you. And this is why, when we see drivers blowing up against their teammates, whether it's Gasly blowing up on the radio in FP3, or whether it's Ocon, like, forcing Fernando off when they were teammates at Alpine, right? They're both guilty of it. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's not about you, it's about the team. Anyway, Racing Bulls, Yuki Tsunoda, once again, very good. Very good, especially in qualifying. Ricciardo got to Q3 as well, so clearly that car did have pace around here. But Ricciardo fell back to 13, Yuki fell back to P10. So they both lost. Well, Yuki qualified 7 or 8, wasn't it? I can't actually remember. Can he remember? But yeah, Yuki keeps cooking. If I'm Yuki, I don't know. I feel like I was listening to a little clip. There's a podcast with Eddie Jordan and David Coulthard that should get a lot more views than it does. It's like Formula for Success or something. You should check it out. It's very interesting. Because obviously Eddie Jordan is Adrian Newey's manager. So he's talked a bit about Adrian. But also he was saying about how when obviously he had Jordan and he had Honda engines, he had to drop Heinz-Harald Frentzen because Honda wanted Takuma Sato in the car. I think it was Takuma Sato. They wanted him in the car, even though he, like, really liked Frentzen. Like, Jordan was a big fan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Thinks he's one of the most underrated drivers ever to be. Maybe he deserves a video essay one day. That'd be actually quite interesting, because I don't really know much about Frentzen. But he was saying, Honda, and this is obviously a long time ago, right? But Honda really wanted a Japanese driver in that car. And after hearing that, we don't know. It's very hard to know how much, Yuki's a Honda driver and they run Honda power in that car. And that Honda logo's more prominent, I would say, on the RB than it is on the race Red Bull. But, man, I'm like, so if that mentality is the same at Honda, then Yuki at Aston Martin in 26 is nigh on inevitability. If it's not, if that mentality is not there, then Yuki needs to be looking at Williams, He needs to be looking at. I mean, any team, honestly, outside the Red Bull family, I feel like he just deserves a good shot at it. But so do many. Good drive from Yuki. Daniel messed up on the start. He was claiming afterwards that it feels like it wasn't a him problem. I don't know. P13 in the end. Another weekend he's been outperformed by Yuki. It's ultimately in his, as much as Perez had a bad weekend, in the body of evidence to support Daniel Ricciardo going to Red Bull, this is another tick in the Yuki Tsunoda box over the Daniel Ricciardo box. Max does not rate Yuki. Based on what, Used? Based on what? Is there a quote from Max, or are we just vibing here? And then, Red Bull, obviously, again, I think Max made the difference. I think Checo is going to have a long rest of the season. Don't think there's any much more to say that I haven't said already. It was interesting seeing not GP on the radio in FP1, but then obviously that changed for the race. Max and GP, you can't split them up, surely. Surely you can't. Not much more to say on Red Bull. Well done, Max. Great win. And well done in the 24 as well. What a job. I mean, he did an evening stint and he did an early morning stint, didn't he? I'm sure he was on the sim like 5 hours before race start or something. It's not even that early. Diehard DR3 fan, no chance he should be in the Red Bull seat. Chuck Yuki in for a year or two. If he stinks, Lawson is there and most likely at Red Bull. And obviously, look, Daniel is very, he brings a lot of value to Racing Bulls, for sure, to keep that team self-sustainable with Cash App and Visa and all these brands that he's a big part of the reason why teams will look on, brands will look on that team with interest. And I feel like Yuki, if he keeps driving like this, he makes it increasingly hard for Red Bull to ignore. And increasingly what are you doing? If you actually are ignoring him. Because I've always written off Yuki to Red Bull. Not because I think the talent is there. Because at every opportunity that Red Bull and Horner in particular is given to give Yuki credit or, prop Yuki to any extent, he seems to just change the subject. So it just doesn't feel like he's interested in Yuki. Is he holding his... is Christian holding Yuki's temper of the past? I don't think... Obviously, first race of the season, he overstepped massively. And I think he must have looked at that and been like, well, I need to stop this because it's this kind of stuff that's going to stop me progressing as far as I could maybe in my career. But I just feel like Yuki's never been given the time of day. And... time will tell. Sauber, once again. Nauber. Doesn't really work. Not anywhere, but... Bottas was given a bit of a stinker of a strategy. Joe was just... They were just both not transparent, seemingly, this weekend. Joe finished ahead of Bottas. Bottas is... I don't even know what happened to Bottas at the end. His pace must have just fallen off an absolute cliff. That car is the worst car over a lap. And the thing is, again, the way things are, where it's so close, and around a track like Imola, where it's very hard to overtake, track position, qualifying is just so important. So, you know what? I don't think the team's giving them too much to fight their battles with. There's obviously links. Joe is being linked with Haas. Doesn't massively surprise me because obviously he brings sponsors with him and Gene Haas loves money. Or loves not spending money on the team, should I say, and keeping it in his pocket. And Bottas was pictured leaving the Williams motorhome and apparently had a 15-minute chat with James Vowles. And I've already said this. I think Bottas is the driver Williams should be going for, not Antonelli. But how good a deal. If Mercedes would be like, cool, you know what? You take Antonelli and you get 3 engines for 2 years. Okay. Maybe that's worth it because then obviously the potential unreliability of a rookie and the potential, You know, you're going for Bottas over Antonelli because Bottas is more experienced and, in theory, a more reliable set of hands. But if you can offset that unreliability with more money, but then Mercedes aren't short of money, you know. How much is... Oh, sorry, Williams are short of money. Sorry, we're talking about Williams, not Mercedes. Williams are short of money and could really do with that money, but also could do with free engines. And Bottas doesn't bring sponsors. So. Anyway, moving on to Williams. Yeah, I mean, I've just talked about Williams, so I've got nothing more to say. Logan, yeah, Logan, he brings gin. He brings his own gin. It's like signing me and bringing. Oh, well, I bring TOMMO'S Racing Goods, where I've made one T-shirt. That is obviously a bit more serious than that. I like gin actually. I should try and get some of Valtteri and his partner's gin, because it's their like joint business, I think. Right? Williams need Joe Money. Well, they could certainly do with Joe Money. Joe Money. They've got Alex tied down as well. So if they can get a Joe Guan Yu alongside Alex Albon, I think Joe would do a better job than Sargent's doing. I think, but also he brings money. But then Sargent, does Sargent bring sponsors? How many of those sponsors? How many of those sponsors on that Williams are from Sargent, or how many of them are through DeRilton being American? Who knows? Cool, right. We've been going for an hour and 7 minutes. So before we wrap, any other thoughts? Yeah, Oath Gin. That is Valtteri's gin company. Any other questions? Anything we didn't touch on? Obviously, F2 this weekend. We had Colapinto win the sprint. I was gonna type and get up the standings, but I can't type because the Bluetooth died on my laptop completely. So nothing's connected, including the inbuilt keyboard. YouTube, please help me out in the comments. Yuki to Red Bull, yeah, we've already kind of talked about that. But yeah, I think like Franco Colapinto got the sprint race win, but Gabriel Bortoleto put it on pole. He F3 champion, remember. He could go back to back. And he's a McLaren driver. He's part of the McLaren Academy. So I think Gabriel Bortoleto, Brazilian driver, obviously donning the Senna tribute helmet this weekend as well. Serious driver, Bortoleto. Serious driver. And keep an eye on him. Brazilian driver, part of the McLaren Academy. So not sure how that would work. Obviously with, they're very set with Lando and Oscar. But yeah, Bortoleto could be in with a shot. I think the way he's driving could well be in with a shot of the F2 Championship this year. Shorten the DRS zone. I mean, they did. Obviously, Oscar was complaining about that after the race, that they shortened the DRS zone. I mean, he's going to complain about it because he was trying to get by science for ages. I mean, again, a track like Imola, the way F1, the size of these F1 cars, the inherent, I talked about this in my wheel cover video, you can't have open wheel racing cars and not have dirty air unless you just take off the wings and just have Formula Fords with F1 engines in and just have no front wing, no rear wing and just no barge boards and then just no design. You can't have it always. You can't have this aerodynamic innovation but then also have open wheel cars that race close. It just doesn't work. Physics just doesn't allow it. And that's why a closed wheel racing series will always be closer. Not to mention you can bump, right? Anyone watch touring cars, Robbins Racing. You can't do that in F1. And you can't get close enough to really do that in F1 either. But F1 it's different. It's very different amongst its peers in terms of other series. It's not a spec series. It's open wheeler. And it's all innovated, like aerodynamic. So it's like you can't have it always. And I just think a track like Imola is an amazing racing circuit for motorsport. But is it amazing? Is it an amazing circuit for F1? No. Is it an amazing circuit for qualifying? And look, I said this for years about like Catalunya, even in qualifying, I thought Catalunya was great. And I love Catalunya in touring cars, in like MotoGP, whatever. Mugello, same. Like Mugello, but Mugello wasn't a great wheel to wheel race, even in F1. That track doesn't play to what F1 cars need. F1 cars need, for it to be a good race, it needs hard braking points, left, right, and centre. Kind of like Spa's not great for F1 either, realistically. But yeah, okay, right, we're going to wrap it there. Thank you all for coming, wherever you are on there. Ricardo, Dimmy, Kira, Charmander, Arrow, Blake, Psychomoto, Eust, Ian, fill in the blanks, Jude, Incognito, at Nim, Blake, Jack, Mark, JVM, Dre, Bass, Liam, Priest, Co, Alexis. Thank you all for watching. New video coming tomorrow, and I'll see you there. My name's Tom. Thanks again. Have a good one. Tara, cheerio. Minton sleeping. Bye-bye, Minton. Thank you all for coming. Bye-bye. Help me with my Bluetooth, please.